do because I didn't cover it. So how about we start the class first, we do a quick meditation, get your state of mind right, and then we do the quiz at the same time that I'm doing the review, so you can totally cheat and just write down what we discuss. How's that? Good. So I invite you, welcome everyone, I invite you to consider that for the next 2 hours you might be listening to a part of yourself that has some insight. So I hope that part of yourself says some beautiful things to you. It's not a great topic today, it's actually a very disgusting topic which has incredible implications in its opposing side if you get to think about it. So what we'll do today is we'll review very quickly last class just so you could do your quiz. Then we'll dive straight into content, but I invite you to consider the content in as practical way as you can. So again, I invite you for the next 2 hours to please listen to the part of yourself that has some wisdom. I'm going to do some blah blah from the front, but what I experience and what you experience might be very different. Hopefully yours is better. Yeah. To invite this wisdom to come, we bribe the highest part of ourselves. We make a pretend offering or a real offering, depending on how your practice is, to the most enlightened quality that you can imagine. Some people have these 5 Buddhas as an imagine, some people have this, some people have their teachers. The highest thing you can imagine, you make a beautiful offering called the mandala, perfect world. Who can umse? Who can do the umse? Yeah? You're good? Let's try it. Anahita will umse. This is against Tibetan tradition. Yeah, girls don't umse, but I love it. Go for it. Yeah. Ukiya Jishin Metokdram Rirauling Shin Yundagampadi Sangha Shindu Nitegawargi Drakun Nanda Shinla Chupasho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniyatayami Chidam Saki Choknamla Janchu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Junyen Gipe Zonamki Drola Penchir Sangye Druparsho Chidam Soki Chognamla Janchu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Junyen Gipe Zonamki Drola Penchir Sangye Druparsho Chidam Soki Chognamla Janchu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Junyen Gipe Zonamki Drola Penchir Sangye Druparsho. So let's have a quick meditation. Take a comfortable seated position. What you just chanted, the second half of that, was looking for protection, going for refuge to this idea of emptiness in its 3 forms, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, which means your mind, the potential of you as a mind stream to become totally enlightened, the realization that nothing on this universe is fixed, therefore it has ultimate potential to be absolutely anything, to to the most perfect thing. And ultimately the community of beings, or people around you that can touch you to share that insight, people that have had that insight and can share it with you so you can have it. So that was that last chant. We've gone for some kind of refuge. With that in mind, take the most comfortable seated position. Really be still in your body. Your base should be firm. Your spine should be perfectly straight, like there's a string pulling up at the crown of your head and you're just floating in midair. Take your time to make sure your body is comfortable, but don't overanalyze. Begin to release any tension from your muscles at your thighs and your legs. Relax your shoulders, they shouldn't be leaning forward or back. Your hands could be on your knees, facing up or down, whatever's most comfortable. Or together at your on your crutch with your right hand over your left palm, thumbs touching. And most importantly, your face. Relax the muscles on your face so there's a tiny smile on the side of your lips. Your nostrils open slowly. Your eyes are not fully shut, nor are they fully open. You cannot see shapes, you can just see light. And now begin to breathe. Just enjoy the sensation of the breath entering this thing you call your body. Observe the sensation as if it's the very first time you breathe in air. Just exhale through your nostril, inhale through your nostril. Do a couple of rounds until your focus, your mind is sharply and nothing but the breath. If your mind strays its attention from the breath, it's perfectly fine. It's like a cloud in the sky that will disappear. The perfectly blue sky is always there. The clouds come and go. So always return your attention to the breath, but this time imagine that all around you are enlightened beings, perfect beings, whatever you can master. And the air you draw into your nostril comes from them, and it's filled with shiny, tiny diamonds. These enter your lung and your body and extract from you, from the inside of you, any obstruction, any sadness, any mental issues, any physical issues. So these tiny bright particles enter your body. They attach themselves to any darkness and they extract them. And as they come out, you imagine them going into the earth, getting purified. So just breathe in bright light, filled with tiny sparkling diamonds from enlightened beings. And breathing out any obstruction. And every exhale, the inside of your body is becoming clearer and clearer. If there's a pain, the pain goes away. Same with mental issues. If you're jealous or angry or stressed, it's all going away. Being pushed deep into the earth. If you know about Mara, you feed it to him. If you know about Yama, the Lord of Death, you feed it to him. And they consume this revolting suffering, freeing you from it, and they leave us alone whilst they feed. The next few inhales, begin to see the internal organs of your body begin to dissolve, become clearer and clearer until they're translucent. And all you are left inside of you is a deep blue sky, just a vast, infinite blue. You feel completely free from suffering. And with that state of mind, invite your teacher or a holy being in front of you and ask them please to come. And as soon as you think of them, they appear, seated, facing you, just you and them. Think of some high quality they possess. Maybe it's an inner peace, maybe it's a wisdom. Whatever the highest quality you can perceive in this being, you feel a joy and a reverence for it. Allow your mind to be placed on that. Make them some kind of offering. It could be the most beautiful, simple thing. The feeling of softness on a tiny petal on a flower. It could be the greatest love you've ever had. It could be a child's smile. Or a mountain range. Think back as a memory, any darkness that you've had in your life, any suffering, and with them make a promise to make efforts to remove it. From your future. Take the whole collection of your deepest happinesses, the best moments, the most enlightened awareness, the highest realizations you've had, the ones you can remember and the ones you can't. Imagine them churning as potentials in your mind. And make a promise to try and invoke them for your future. Then look into their eyes and ask them please to always teach you to know where to step along your path. And they smile, they agree, because after all, they can only do what you allow them to do in your mind. And then you ask them to always stay close. And they know they will. Now imagine them floating up and turning to face the same direction you're facing, getting smaller and smaller until they float just above the crown of your head, bright in light, dynamic and moving. A beacon of wisdom just above the crown of your head, accessible to you at any time. Your mind perceiving this means you have the potential for this. And when you're ready, bring your awareness back to your body and the room, but try and maintain the flavor of that meditation. Welcome. Hi. Hope that was nice. Felt nice and quiet. It's good to see so many people here today. I have to do this. Except for those people that I saw on the street heading back home because it was too cold outside. It's much warmer in here, and people are so friendly. There's so many of them. There's chocolate outside, and listen to them laugh. Jennifer. We ran into a student on the street. She's like, "Oh my God, I got saw sneaking out."
Sneak away.
Watch this. Okay, so we've been rushing through the karma course, Americans, course. There's lots of information about karma. It's one of the hardest things to understand. So.
Are you taking American classes or something?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for sure. So, give yourselves a break. It's okay not to grasp all of it. Allow your mind to be soaked into all this information I'm dumping on you over the last 10 weeks. It's so much. And even in this course, it's just a flavor, I said it right, of whatever is in a monastic study. Is so deep. There's so much information just on karma. But karma, the idea of action, the idea of mental movements, the idea of what is it that creates this universe, it's karma. That whole idea is one of the fundamental tenets of this whole field of study. And it's not something separate. It's not like, oh, I'm studying Buddhism, I'm studying these ideas out there. It actually describes how this world functions. So I hope you can get soaked into the idea on karma and leave them to cook. Let them cook inside of you. Let them churn. Sometimes the soup will taste bitter. Sometimes the soup will taste sweet. These will come and go, but hopefully you will get more and more views of this 3D image of what it's like to have your mind create your world, which is what this is saying. Last week's class I didn't quite finish, so I'm going to finish with something that's a little confusing. I'm going to review class 7, part of class 6 and 7. But I'll answer any questions anybody has first. Does anybody have any questions from the difficult issues we had on the glass? The 3 ways, the problem of the glass. Does anybody know the problem of the glass? Remember the problem of the glass? Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
What was the problem of the glass?
That everybody perceives it differently, and there is always potential unless someone starts perceiving the glass and thinking that it is something.
Mm-hmm. So the glass of liquid, is empty of having a nature from its own side. There's no water coming from this object. There is liquidness, so ebbing and flowing. Even that, but that gets too detailed. But I am, and you are, perceiving it as water. My perception of it is different to yours. You can imagine what I'm tasting now, but you can't know. So the problem of the glass is a typical Tibetan debate around the idea of emptiness. There is no water from this substance. It's empty of the quality of water. And they talk about if a ghost, hungry ghost, sees it, or a deva, a god realm being, and a human at the same time, that the glass of liquid is empty of having the quality of what I perceive it to be. The God realm might see it as nectar, really providing a complete bliss experience when they taste it, as opposed to just water. And the hungry ghost perceiving it as revolting substance that's bitter, like pus and blood and whatever. They say that you could have those 3 experiences right now. If there's someone watching it, me watching it, another one watching it, that's a reality for the hungry ghost. That's a reality for the deva, and that's a reality for me. My reality doesn't make it the ultimate reality. Ultimately, it does not have that nature. Yeah, the classical example we use in our school is the pen. We see it as a pen or a marker. Yeah, and if an animal walked in here, or a dog, a puppy dog comes in, they cannot see the functionality and have the whole experience coming from their mind that says, I can write with it, I can do letters, I can highlight, etc. They see it as a chew toy, something to bite and do that with. And that's equally valid for this object. That's as valid, it's as real as me thinking it's a pen, me perceiving it as a functioning pen. So the thing that pops up when I see this does not come from this. If it did, the proof of that is that if it did, when the eyeballs of a puppy dog looked at it, they must think, I can't wait to write with it. I can't wait to highlight, yeah, my favorite posts along Fifth Avenue to pee on, yeah. So the proof that there is no substance coming from the object that forces every being to perceive it in the same way, because if there was penness coming this way, every single creature must perceive it that way. The fact that there are many perceptions for this object means there is no self-existent nature. That's all self-existent nature means. And emptiness means there is no penness in this object. When I put it down and all the humans leave the room and just the dogs stay, at that time, is it a pen, a chew toy? What is it? If there's only dogs looking at it.
Nothing.
It's only a chew toy because there's only dog consciousnesses looking at it. Ultimately, if everything leaves the room, what is it?
Potential.
It's potential. As soon as you invoke a perception upon it, which is what we're all doing, right? We're trying to imagine not to imagine it. Yeah.
Does it make a difference that the intention of the manufacturer was that you use it for this purpose?
Well, you know, there are 4 schools of Buddhist philosophy on this idea of emptiness, and you could say, and then dependent origination. Where does the penness come from? You know, and you could say, so the lowest school would say it comes from its parts, yeah, its components. It's got plastic, it's got ink. The manufacturer made it that way. Yeah, this is another way to think about it. So no, at the point of functioning, it doesn't. Yeah, because some people use, I don't know, if you've been to the third world, you know that we use things for different purposes than what is intended. You know, and so what ends up being, I'm trying to think, a cooking pot was once a car hub. You know. So what is it? Is it a car hub or is it a cooking pot? Yeah, but I perceive it as a car hub that I'm making into a cooking pot. Yeah.
But what about the different? I guess it's the way I was interpreting the question is different types of consciousnesses, because humans have this intense capacity to produce things for a purpose.
Yeah.
Which becomes lesser and lesser depending on different animals. I'm sorry to be human-centric.
Yeah. No, that's quite fine. It doesn't mean that things don't function. It doesn't mean we don't make pens. There is pen here for us. Conventionally, it exists as a pen for the human realm. But the fact that another animal, another being on this planet that you share experience with, has a complete different experience of this object, looks at ultimate nature of object.
But then
For
it
example-
doesn't have to
Hey!
be. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It doesn't have to be an example of a pen. If we take a flower, we don't really know what it was produced for, right? Because for B, a flower is a means to construct. For someone else, a flower is a means to eat. And for us, it's just a pretty thing that we destroy and put in a vase. So if we don't know the information about the manufacturer, then
That's good.
yeah.
That's great. What were you going to say? Because then I wanted to go back to something similar to that, which was, actually I'll do it now. Before the manufacturer got the parts, the components, the plastic, the ink, the coloring, etc., what was it? At what point? You know, now it's a pen. Ticking, it comes out. But this collection of stuff,
It's always caught. So
it's always coarse. It's always coarse. It's got. You can take it back all the way to infinity. So anyway, don't want to get lost in this topic because I want to cover karma. But the karma to see it as a pen. The fact that we share the same perception is karma. You don't have a choice. You see it as a pen, you learn it as a pen. You can get an Eskimo child that's never seen a pen. And because they are human, you can teach them pen, they can cognize pen, and we share perception pen. You can get an elephant baby and teach them pen, they will never see pen, like we see pen. They'll understand to do this to it, but they will never have the karmas to see pen. The same with a puppy dog. You can put it in its paw, you could force it on them. They cannot have perception that humans have. This is what they mean in the wheel of life to be in the human realm. We have a few boundaries and within which we perceive. A bunch of them are forced on us. We share this conventional reality. That's what convention is. This is our convention. Call it poo-poo. Doesn't matter. If everybody called it poo-poo, let's use the poo-poo to write letters, you know? This is convention. This is what we agree. But we are forced to perceive this thing in a similar way. And we can teach each other and we can share. No problem. It functions. It works as intended. Yeah. We all agree. We can all agree flowers are all of a sudden food, you know? Now we can put them in salad. Not when I was born, you know? But now all of a sudden we can put flowers on salads. Now it's food. It wasn't food before. So, conventional reality. Quite fine. You don't think dogs have a convention about this object? You know? They'll fight for it to who can chew it the most, etc. I digress. What was I trying to prove? The problem of the glass. Yeah? It gets deep into the philosophical explanation of what is there really. But it's really to highlight the point that things are empty of having a solid existence from their own side. That just because humans agree that things are a certain way doesn't make them ultimately a certain way. The perception part is karma. And then we started dividing. What's karma? There's all these karmas. Good karmas, bad karmas, neutral karma. Where do they sit in your kunchi? And blah, blah. We began to think about this idea, but I don't want you to lose the fact that we're talking about the impulses and the way we manufacture our reality and then agree on it. Oh, this is good and this is bad. And because we don't share all precisely the same karmas, we favor some people that see the world exactly like we see it. So you're my friend. And we fight with the people that don't see the world exactly like we see. They don't have at the detail of karma the same karma. I think this is a bad thing. I think this is a good thing. Let's fight about it. Which produces more karma? So, we talked about black, white, or black and white karma. Do you remember that? This is part of your review. You might get to do this. What's black karma? It's got two parts.
The black is the one that causes...
Now go on. Its essence is black. Go on.
Yeah.
And its result is black. What does it mean? Come on. No? Give it a guess from what you know. It's bad. What's the definition of bad?
One, it causes you suffering.
Mm-hmm. So you would be afflicted in some way. You will see some suffering. Yeah? So its essence is bad and its result is bad or negative, means that there's some ignorance attached to its essence. Yeah? And the result is suffering. What's a white karma? A pure karma.
Essence white, source white.
Exactly. Essence is white, meaning it was at the core it's white, it's produced by a white thing. And its result is white, meaning it's a pleasure.
But it's impossible for us to create it.
Right, this was what was interesting, right?
I have a question about that. So in the desire, not in the, which realm is it that you can plant?
In the form realm, you can plant white karmas.
So if you're always planting white karmas, isn't that a sure sign that you're going to build enough? You're going to be able to clean up your mental afflictions and...
You should be able to, assuming you got rid of your whole storehouse of bad karmas if we've lived for eons.
Right.
Yeah? So, and if you're always in the form realm.
So how could you ever go to a lower realm once you've been in the form realm? If you're only, if you
Yeah. So this is the question. So in the Wheel of Life that Geshe Michael just taught, you have the 6 realms or 5 realms with the gods and demigods. These are pleasure beings, yeah, who have, through some extraordinary karmas, perceive their existence without form, mostly. You know, they can sit in the form realm, in the formless realm, or here in the desire realm. We are in the desire realm. There are 6 divisions: animals, humans, ghosts, hell beings, and demigods and gods. Yeah. So gods and demigods, according to that doctrine, can be here in the desire realm, can be in the form realm, which means they have very subtle forms, and the formless realm, which is pure mind or some kind of mind. Yeah. If you can plant enough karmas in your storehouse of karma, in your kunchi, you could have more white than black. And today we'll talk about what's called a penjaki layer, projecting karma. What is it that produces a specific kind of rebirth? What is it that produces a specific kind of awareness of that you are human or that you are not human? We'll talk about that. So you might have extraordinary karma that projected you into a deva experience of a godly being. Yeah, you might be perceiving pleasure, but you might have done it without cleaning your storehouse of negative karmas, and so you are experiencing 500 years of pleasure or something. And this you'll find in the Abhidhamma Kosha when they describe the cosmology of this universe. And you are wearing out your good karmas. Yeah, you are just using up more and more and more and more and more of your good karmas until there's no more left, and all that's left is a dark karma or mixed karmas, and that finishes your body, your form, or whatever form you have. They say in the Abhidhamma Kosha that and you do this when you do the 37-part mandala. When you do the deep mandala, this is a mandala that they, I don't know if you've seen them, with rice. There's this big sheet that you have these rings with rice, and you go and imagine a perfect universe. This is us doing a short version of that. The real one is a 37-part chant of you're imagining the cosmology described in the Abhidhamma Kosha. So you're imagining 4 corners of the universe. Humans live in this one corner of the universe. There's another corner of the universe where the devas or the god realms, they might live up to 500 years. They say that they are just experiencing pleasure and pleasure and pleasure, and not necessarily planting any new karmas. Yeah. And at 7 days before they die, they hear this loud voice saying, "In 7 days you will die." Yeah. And all of a sudden, their garlands that are covered in beautiful flowers and scents begin to turn. They begin to stink. Everybody's like, "What's wrong with you?" They go turn away from them, and they are horrified, and they go straight down to a lower rebirth. That's a description in the Abhidhamma Kosha. So I hope I answered that. So you were saying we can only plant them in the form realm. Why would you not be able to plant them in as a human?
The seed is always black.
Correct, because the essence would be black, because according to what we're trying to figure out is there's an ingrained ignorance about how the world operates that we carry in our consciousness. This ignorance we are born with. If we knew how things worked, we would make this world work all the time, perfectly. We could make things function nicely. We would not have broken relationships and sickness, and we would find the cure for cancer. We wouldn't have a new mutation to cancer. We would find the cure for this or the other. We don't. We still are born, we still age, we still get sick, and we still die. We still go through sufferings, and we say that the source of that suffering is this fundamental ignorance of how things truly exist, which is implying or saying that the wisdom is understanding that there is no self-nature. That's how things truly exist. If you knew this, you would be planting correct karmas, white karmas, because it's a little bit more complicated than that. So because we're in a suffering state, Suffering meaning we have ignorance in our consciousness. I think I'm going to be happy by taking this for me, and I think that's what gives me happiness. Taking makes me happy. This is the mode in this world. I want your job. If you're competing for a job, I'm going to try and get it first, because I want it for me. We take in this world. Taking it would plant a karma of things being taken away from me. It's not the way things function, according to this doctrine, this idea. If we knew the emptiness of how you get things, the karma towards it would be to give. So if I want to have endless new jobs and we're competing for a job, I would make sure you're presented really well for this job. That's how you give somebody the job. That's the only way you're ever going to get a job. And we apply all the other rules of karma, that it grows, etc., etc., etc. So the ignorance that is in our consciousness all the time is what makes it impossible for us to have a white essence and a white result. So in fact, we as humans can only do white and black karmas until a certain point in our spiritual development. White and black and white karmas mean that the essence is black, it has some ignorance, but we are making efforts and we're doing a good deed, so the result will be good. So it's a mixed, that's why things break. That's why things break down. You get a little flowering, I found the perfect job. 3 weeks later, my boss is an asshole, I found the perfect relationship. Oh, they're putting on weight. Sorry, David, I was looking at you. Yeah. Act as if you don't care. He's an actor, by the way. And so things just are constantly in this flux, because we are forever trying to affect our world with the wrong causes, not understanding what truly causes any pleasure, any goodness.
So, I still don't get. So we're talking about the essence. Is the essence the same as the seed? And if the essence is the same as the seed, then by me sitting down, thinking, okay, I'm going to meditate to, to get enlightened or whatever I'm going to meditate for, that's how I create the seed for my meditation, but it's black in its essence. And when exactly does karma start then? Because, okay, I go to the fourth realm, but my seed is still black.
If your seed is in your mind, it's a good question, because you're saying, I still have a body, and my body's still sitting in the meditation cushion, and that's got ignorance in it, right? That's a good question, really good question. You practice meditation little bits at a time. Like it'd be bad to practice 1 hour of meditation and you've never practiced meditation before. So you practice meditation, you grow your mind to allow itself to observe itself or to be by itself. You remove all the stimuli that mind is always busy with, sounds and sights and tastes and smells and touches. Just remove them, that's why you sit down. Do it for 5 minutes at a time to start with, and then you can maintain a concentration on what it's like to be that thing that interprets everything. If you remove everything it's interpreting, that's what you're doing really. Who are you when you remove the sounds that you're interpreting all the time? Who are you if you remove the sight that you're watching all the time, and the senses and the touches? If you remove all of those and you practice a little bit at a time, you'll know who you are. You'll find your essence. Yeah, that's meditation. You allow your mind to build the muscle of concentration, and like a broad light that touches everything, you begin to focus it and narrow until it's a sharp laser full of power and force. So you grow from 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Yeah, and in doing that, if you're doing it well, and you know that you're doing it well, because when you finish meditating you come out and go, shit, it's been 40 minutes. Or you begin to get like a memory of what just occurred, but while it was occurring you weren't, oh look at this, oh look at that, because that's also a distraction. Yeah. So you build enough subtlety in your mind observing itself, yeah, until you get to more and more subtle levels of mind. When you get to a certain deep level of mind, you are not here anymore. This is not you. So I can touch you and you won't feel it. You are disconnected from the mind is disconnected from the essence. Yeah, its essence is black. Because you're not here, you're not in the desire room. You're in the form room. Your body your mind is abiding in a different reality. And at that time, you begin to move between analytical and single-pointed meditation. And there's a story. You should learn the meditation course, yeah, with this information. And that's how you can make it the essence is white. Because you are not in the distracted, stained part of the mind. You are in its essence. You're in the essence. Yeah?
So, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I want to get to class though. Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So this means that it doesn't matter what is your purpose when you go into meditation. You just have to let go. And
No, it really matters. Yeah. So it totally matters. Yeah, what your purpose is. Because if your intention, if your object is dark, your result will be dark. If your object is light, your result will be light. Light produces light. You know, you could train your mind really perfectly to focus on evil. Like, how do I kill 1 million people? And really, color your mind. You can meditate on it perfectly, and it will grow. You will see it, and you will experience it, and you must experience the result. I mean, yeah. How's that? Cool. So we do black and whites. Do you understand? Is that cool? Yep. Cool. Is it really hot in here? No? I think so, just a little bit. Then we talked about the 4 parts of a path of action. Do you remember the she? Do you remember that? The object? 4 parts that make a great karma, or a path of karma, or a path of action. Who can remember that? She means object.
Sampa.
Sampa means identification, or the mental part, the mental component. So you have 4 components that make a great karma. Pay attention, because this means you want to see some results in your life. You learn how to apply these 4 things to what you do. So she means the object. And we talked previously that you could do an action of body, speech or mind, which is planting a karma towards a shitty object, a negative object, or a positive object. It doesn't matter. Yeah? But you're going to get the result similar to what you're focusing on. To make a karma ripen quickly in this life, you choose the highest object. And this means what? What's highest object mean? That's one thing.
Whatever your highest object is.
Whatever your highest object is. Great. What would be an example of a very high object?
What time?
Your lama.
Why your lama? Did you say a penny? Huh?
Because that's what you're trying to emulate.
Right, so if you have a practice and you follow a guru, you follow a teacher, and you truly, see them as something special, meaning when they say something or move or behave in a certain way, you get realizations, then this is a high object for you. Your mother is a high object for you. Your father is a high object for you. Your school teacher is a high object for you. Do you see that? How do I put it? If you're born into this world and you're just dumped here as a baby, you die in 6 hours. You'd be eaten by something. You won't be able to feed yourself. You'd die. But good or bad, your mum fed you. Your parents provided a bed. Good or bad, for years your parents have nurtured this thing you are. That's a high object. Without them, impossible to be here. Psychologically or mentally, your teacher, your guru, or anybody that you experience, it could be your girlfriend who gives you this insight into how the world functions, and it turns on something meaningful in you. That's a high object, because you see them that way. So if you're a good practitioner, and we're on course 5 of 18, by this point you should have a personal practice. you should have some kind of personal practice. You should meditate every day, a little bit, but every day, because a consistent karma will give you a consistent result. Yeah, a broken karma, I meditate a little bit, I don't meditate, will give you a broken result of wisdom. Yeah, so you should have some kind of practice. So a high object, if you're a practitioner and you're having some kind of practice, you should be sniffing around for those beings in your world that turn meaning on for you. And you should stick to them like flies on fly paper. Because that's the only way, that's the interdependence you have with beings around you. And if you're a high practitioner, you should include in that pool of beings the people that really piss you off. Because they're the only ones that are going to teach you how to jump through that hoop of the things that you previously called piss me off. Your friends won't do it. They'll be nice to you, you know? But if you really need a teacher, go to the person that really turns you off and then serve them. Look after them. Feel it. They're the ones that are going to push your button to the point that you recognize your affliction and then you fix it. You need more Garys in your life. I don't know if you know the story of Gary. Hector, you stupid. Yeah, that one. You need them when you get deeper and deeper into practice. So you should have some kind of, this is the point of this, is practice. Planting a karma towards that kind of object means it'll come back quickly.
Can I ask a quick question?
You can ask a quick question.
I've been...
Respectfully though.
Respectfully. I've been challenged with that. How do you not plant like fakeness? Like you.
Yeah, that's a good question.
How do you remain being genuine and like have a genuine relationship with someone if they're annoying the heck out of you and you're supposed to be nice to them?
So I'm going to say that recently I've had the opportunity to do this. Yeah, and when you're fighting a battle like this in your inner world, yeah, because the object outside is empty of that. When you're fighting this thing and you begin to lose, when you're planting more dark karmas than you are good karmas, you give up. You move on to the next thing. But you push yourself. You push yourself. You push yourself. You push yourself. So let's say you have a black and white, good motivation, bad motivation. When the majority of motivation when looking at that object are just dark and you can't overcome them and it's beating you, then you retreat. You build up energy and then you attack. And then you build up experience and then you retreat. And then you attack bigger objects and bigger objects. You know? It's a good question.
I'm sorry. I also ask because I see some people like practicing that and they end up like in abusive relationships.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, no, and we do it so well in the West, you know, poor me, yeah, especially if you're some kind of Catholic background or, you know, poor me. So yeah, it's easy to put yourself in a place of abusive relationship if you misunderstand this philosophy. Yeah, you need to be a strong-minded practitioner. That's why understanding the basics is so fundamental, so important. You have to have vigilance when you're noticing yourself planting karma. So let's take the example of an abusive relationship. Like I've done this with bosses before, yeah, where I'm trying to practice patience and they're, Hector, you're stupid, and I'm like, yes, I'm stupid, and then I begin to believe and identify that I'm an idiot, yeah, and then every time I'm in front of them I behave like an idiot and they treat me like an idiot, and then I behave more like an idiot and then they treat me, and that's fine because I came from Catholic guilt and I'm a poor, you know, I'm a poor idiot. And this works perfectly in my old mode of understanding the world. So this is a perfect symbiotic victim-attacker relationship. If you apply wisdom to it, if you apply the understanding that these things don't come from the object, and then you apply karma, when you realize you are allowing that other being to plant abusive seeds in their own mind for their own result, you have to stop, or you have to stand up, or you have to put up a fight, or you have to be assertive in a certain way that will stop them from planting abusive seeds. Yeah. But this is a funny path, and the higher you go in this path, the harder it is, you know, to, well, not the harder it is, the finer the detail you have to do. Heard a nun talking about becoming a nun, a Buddhist nun, and she said, you know, becoming a Buddhist nun is different to this life. This life is easy at the beginning and hard at the end. You know, we're young, we party, we have all these sorts of playthings, and then teeth fall out and arms fall off, and then eventually you pass, you know, without friends and without your clothes and without your house and everything you worked for. So it's easy. This life is easy at the beginning and hard at the end. But practice is hard at the beginning, but easy at the end. Because you have control of your mind, the thing that's producing this thing. You know, so it's but you only do it with this enter, retreat. Yeah. Retreat. Okay, so the four parts that make, hi.
Very cold.
Very cold. Let's turn them off. Okay, thank you. That's a very good question, and here's my answer. Thank you. So think about that. This is not philosophy for the sake of a good idea. This is practical, real, extinguishing permanently from our lives the things that hurt. And then if you figure that out, help the people around you to do the same. Stop suffering for yourself. Know how to do it, and then stop suffering for all the people that are around you falling over all the time. And they don't know why. You know, because they're competing for the job, or they're grabbing at things thinking that'll make them happy. And this is a lifetime. But it's hard at the beginning because we're going against the current, and easy at the end because you see how things work. Yeah. So to make a great karma, you need the basis. Then you need the thinking, which is the sampa. There are 3 parts of the sampa. I don't want to talk about it. Then you have the undertaking of the deed. You observe yourself undertaking the deed. So you must say, here is my boss that makes me angry all the time. The she is my boss. Yeah? The thinking is, I'm going to embarrass him in front of everybody else. So I'm planning evilly. This is how you make a great bad karma. And then, and then the jorwa, which is the undertaking. I'm at the meeting and I say something completely embarrassing about him in front of all his colleagues. Yeah, and I see his red face, etc. This would be the tartuk, or the completing, where I see the redness in his face, meaning, I've embarrassed him in front of everybody. Yeah, that's it. That's a great karma. It will have a definite result. It will be a strong result, and it would happen in this life if I chose a high object. Yeah, does that make sense? You need those 4 parts. And the second part, sampa, has 3 parts, which you have to correctly identify that it's him. You do have to be under the influence of some kind of mental affliction, and you have to have really naughty motivation. So these are all very subtle levels of identifying karma, but get the flavor for it. You want to make a great karma? You identify the object. Here it is. It's my boss. I know it's my boss. I'm clear about it. Yeah. How do I do this? You think about it. Your mind builds up this energy. You do the deed. You say the embarrassing thing, and then you observe. It's complete. I've seen it. Haha. You know, I rejoice in the thing. The implication on that is you can do a great karma. You can create a great imprint in your mind that must produce the equal and opposite result. In this case, I will be embarrassed many times over when I'm in front of my colleagues or whatever, in a great way. The longer it stays in my mind before it ripens, the bigger the result will be. So in that case, that will happen to me in a much worse way, much bigger over time. The implication, if that law is a law, is that you could do the same for a goodness. that if you identify the object, if you say, who's my she, what's my object, let's say my teacher or my lover or my parents or someone of great importance in your life, yeah, and then you do some thinking about it. You say, how do I bring upon them the greatest joy? How do I bring upon them what they most want? Maybe it's some understanding or some wisdom or something, or some ease of pain, something, some happiness. And you think about it and you plan, you bring those karmas up into your mind. You're churning your storehouse of karmas. And then you watch yourself do it. You lend a helping hand, or you listen to your dad for the 6 hours he wants to tell you something, you know. But you do it with loving kindness in your heart, because they gave you life. And then you observe upon their face the joy of having spent 6 hours with you, you know, and you smile and you enjoy it. You must get the same result. You must get a great kindness back. Yeah. So that's a great karma. We haven't started class again. Dun, 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 dun. But this, I'm hoping this is good, because I think I'm recapping so you can get practice for these ideas. Then there was this really confusing part. I'm only going to touch it because I'm also confused about it. It's also in the Abhidhamma Kosha, and it says something like this. There are some things which are karmas but not a path of karma. There are some things which are paths of karma but are not karmas, and there are things that are both karmas and paths of karma. And then they have an example where they divide the 10 non-virtues, the 3 of mind and the 7 of body and speech. Yeah, and in essence they say, look, that thing which is a karma and not a path of karma is just the movement of the mind, like the Abhidhamma Kosha says. So whenever your mind moves towards something, it's a karma planted. Then they say, well, what is a path of karma and not a karma? Is that right? Let me have a check. It's both, which is both a karma and a path of karma, and it's the 7 non-virtues of body and speech. So when you observe yourself saying something and its effect, or touching something and its effect. Yeah, does that make sense? So you're stealing, or sexual misconduct, or idle talk, or something like that, are both karmas planted and a path of karma, like we just talked. And then they say, this is the confusing part, something which is a path of karma but not a karma. So something which is a path of karma and not a karma. And honestly I don't understand the relevance in the entire course, but I'm going to give it to you because it was given to me. Okay? And that is the 3 of the 10 non-virtues that have to do with mind: ill will, wrong view, and coveting. Good. So the 3 of mind are not karmas but a path of karma. And I don't really understand what it means, so chew on that for a second. It will make sense when you become Buddhas, I am sure. Okay, today I have to talk about a revolting thing. Let's talk with a nice thing first, and then I'll disappoint you, and then hopefully after the disappointing part I can give you hope. How's that? Yeah, go for the ride. But it has some magnificent implications. In ACI 1, when we talked about the 3 principal paths, the 3 main ideas that you need to know, the 3 states of mind that you need to have in order to become enlightened, when we talked about that, we talked about the 2 collections, just briefly. Yeah? So the first one is the collection of merit, and the second one is the collection of wisdom. So the collection of merit and the collection of wisdom are the very things that will produce both your physical body. When you become a Buddha, when you become an enlightened being, you will observe a body. So what causes that? And the collection of merit is what causes that. And when you become a Buddha, when you become enlightened, you will have a mind. but it has a different quality. What produces that mind with those qualities? That's the collection of wisdom. Okay, so I'm going to give you some lists. Here we go. Does anybody know about the 6 perfections? Do you know what the 6 perfections are? Okay, someone rattle off the 6 perfections.
Generosity.
Actually, before we do that, let's see if you know, historians now. Where did this... Give me a book that describes the 6 perfections. Name of a book that describes the 6 perfections. Question number 2. Next. Give me the purpose of the 6 perfections. What's these 6 things?
How to get enlightened?
Huh?
How to get enlightened? 6 easy steps?
6 easy steps on how to get enlightened. Yeah, actually, that's the truth about every single thing in Buddhism. That's true.
Sankapa?
Nope, that's good. Good try. No, it was around 700 AD. That should give anybody a hint. No, okay. Huh? No, close.
Shantideva.
Thank you very much. Bless you. Master Shantideva, 700 AD. I'll give you a quick story about this dude, right? They called him Mr. Three Thoughts. Poop, eat, and sleep. Yeah? Because they thought that's all he did in the monastery. Poop, eat, and sleep. So they called him Mr. Three Thoughts, and they teased him. This is around 700 AD. I can't remember the name of the monastery. And they didn't see him as a very enlightened being. They saw him as a lazy, take advantage of the monastery, just eat everything you can, avoid class, and go to sleep. Yeah. So then there was this practice where you have people come up in front of everybody, the thousands of monks, and do a teaching from memory. Yeah. So the monks would come up and recite from memory for 50 minutes or an hour or something, and they thought they would set him up for failure by asking him to do this practice. And shouldn't you be down there? Yeah, mentally, yeah. Okay. And so they asked Master Shantideva, who was called not Master Shantideva at the time, he was called Mr. Three Thoughts, to come up. And they rigged the steps to the thing so he would fall over, and they did all these things to embarrass him. Anyway, so he starts reciting perfectly this text called the Bodhisattva Charivatara, the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And he starts reciting this thing perfectly. It's got 8 or 9 chapters depending on who you listen to. And this book that he's reciting from memory is such a perfect condensation of the entire practice of Buddhism. Yeah? And it has in it all the intricacies of all the stuff we've been studying, collected into this thing called the 6 perfections. The 6 things that you practice to perfect in your mind. And the first one is the practice of generosity or giving. Yeah? The second one is the practice of morality. Yeah? Not morality because baby Jesus thinks it's a good thing, but morality because it is the karma that produces your world. So if you want a certain thing in your world, you behave towards your world in that kind of moral way. Yeah? The third of the perfections is the perfection of patience. But patience is
No anger.
it's not getting angry when you are supposed to. So when you're being yelled at or aggravated, is understanding through wisdom that it comes from you and choosing not to get angry. Okay, special techniques. The fourth of the perfections, so he's reciting this, by the way, yeah, on his cushion up there, and everyone's like, he remembered a few sentences together, and not only that, a whole text, and blah blah blah. So they're all slowly becoming aware that this guy is something special. And as he gets to the 4th chapter, which is the chapter on joyful effort, yeah, being happy, being joyful about doing goodnesses, yeah. So sitting with your dad for 6 hours and so on, just feeling joy that you're doing something like that. And then the 5th chapter is the chapter on concentration or the perfection of meditation, yeah. And the 6th chapter is the chapter on wisdom, the idea that nothing comes from its own side, but viscerally seeing Then there's 7th and 8th chapters that describe other things. As he's describing this, he begins to float off his cushion, they say. And that's why I think the 8th chapter, some people have it with the 8th chapter and some have it without, because those that have it without weren't able to hear him in his distance as he flies off into the sky. Right? So only a few people heard the 8th chapter. The ones with enough karma to hear it. Right? The other dumbasses didn't hear anything. Yeah. So why am I talking to you about the 6 perfections? Because I just told you there are 2 collections to become a Buddha. You must have a body and you must have a mind of a Buddha. One of the collections, meaning you collect in a bag all your karmas, right? There are two big bags of karmas that produce stuff. One bag of karmas will produce your Buddha body, yeah? And one bag of karma must produce your Buddha mind, because mind produces mind and body produces body, right? Physical produces physical. So, in the 6 perfections, which of those do you think are your collection of merit, the thing that produce your physicality?
2.
Which of the 6 perfections produce your collection of merit? Physicalness.
Number 2.
All of them.
First 4. Giving, receiving. Yeah? Morality, all the interaction with your physical world. Patience. And joyful effort. Yeah? Which of the 6 perfections create your wisdom? The last 2. Yeah. Concentration and wisdom produce the kind of Buddha mind you must have in the end.
So does this collection of wisdom and
merit,
do they also generate all your other bodies?
Correct. So what's the Rupakaya, for those of you who want to learn, what's the Rupakaya?
Body.
The body of the Buddha, and there are 2 bodies to the Buddha, right? This is now getting too technical, but here we go. What the Rupakaya has 2 there's Sambhogakaya and the Nirmanakaya. And the Sambhogakaya, which are both part of the Rupakaya, these are all the kayas, you can go look at them on kayak, no, on the Rupakaya has 2 parts. So the physicality of the Buddha has 2 parts. Their paradise body, Sambhogakaya, yeah? And then what they see and what bodhisattvas see, if you like. And then the bodhisattvas, yeah! And then your projection body, so the body that beings have when they perceive a Buddha. So those Buddhas we see there are which of the kayas? Nirmanakayas, right? Because we've perceived them. Someone saw them and they drew them, right? What do they really look like to themselves and to bodhisattvas? I don't know, I'm just a dumbass. So then the wisdom body produces the Dharmakaya, which is both the mind of the Buddha and the emptiness of the Buddha's mind. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah? So anyway, I want to tell you about these things, because now I'm going to tell you the terrible thing, and then we're going to have a break. You're going to be depressed, you're going to eat too much, because that's what happens when we think you're going to get happy when you eat, and then I can solve it all with dessert. Okay? So you have these 2 things. Every action in your storehouse of karmas, every energy inside of you, every single thing you did or thought or said is inside you. You can't get rid of it. It's there. It's a seed. It's a potential. It rolls from moment to moment, producing your world. And as you interact with your world, you create more and more and more. And as you begin on a path, you begin to see how you can manipulate this reality by acting in a certain way towards certain objects and creating specific karma, especially when you get the technique of a great karma or a high object, etc. And so you practice, and you concentrate, and you meditate, and you retreat, and you have this practice. And you begin to build or practice the 6 perfections. You begin generosity, and you begin by giving food or vegetables or something to people like we did in Nepal. And then you begin to give them protection or education and so on. And then you begin to give them meaning and teaching things that can really help them for lifetimes. And then you begin to perfect the perfection of giving. And then you do the same for morality. You understand the interplay between your core, your world, and your behavior in your world, even when no one's looking, and how that's produced, etc., etc., etc. This builds up your collection of merit. This is what builds up your capacity to see yourself as an enlightened being. Is there an enlightened being separate to your perception? Does it mean that there is no enlightened being just because you're at perception? Is it a functioning perception? Is that any different to this reality? Trick question. Okay. So what I'm saying is that there's this beautiful thing called your collection of merit, and this beautiful thing called the collection of wisdom. The subject that I'm going to cover next is this nasty thing called cutting your root of virtue. That there are things you could do. There are things you could do in your state of mind and in your behavior that completely sever your accessing that root of virtue. And so you are forever stuck in this cycle. Yeah, it's a revolting thing. So we'll talk about that. There's this thing called cutting your root of virtue, and I'll give you the Abhidharma point of view, and then I'll give you the Mahayana point of view on cutting your root of virtue. But it is possible, it's revolting, it's disgusting. Because if you think what it's cutting off is your capacity to become free from suffering. And there's things you can do to do that. Lovely. And the reason I'm telling you is because then the opposite might also be true. What would be the opposite?
Creating.
Plug yourself to the root of virtue forever.
Not quite.
Cutting off your access to your negative.
Say that again.
Cutting off access to your black karmas.
Cutting off your access to...
Your negative karmas, not allowing them to write things.
So for a second, look at that thing and call it a Buddha, because she's just said the most beautiful thing. How nice, right? To consider that you also have, if that's true, then the opposite is true. If you can cut off your access to your root of goodness, it is understanding that can help you destroy your root negative virtues, your negative karmas. Access to the entire pool of negativity you've ever done. This is the practice of purification. We're not covering it today, but we're covering the idea of it before then. That's awesome. Yeah, great, thank you. Okay, let's take a break, and I'll see you at 9:10 with the bad news and the good news. Thanks.
You sound like a Jehovah's Witness.
Huh?
You sound like a Jehovah's Witness.